Hello and welcome to video 2. This is me learning how to use the Teenage Engineering EP-1320 Medieval. Before I get into the video proper, I'm going to just talk about a few hints and tips and bits. Generally what happens when I do these videos is when I watch them back, I normally spot some things that I perhaps missed. So I deal with that at the beginning of the next video. So there's a few bits and pieces before we get into the meat and potatoes of this video. Yeah, I was talking about those codes in video 1, the codes that you can tap in to get to various things like scales and keys and what the pads do. I'll show you where they are in the manual, the online manual. It's actually in 15 Systema, and if you scroll down you can find all these codes here. So you've got these codes for the MIDI clock, 100, 101, 102, 200 to 212, the sync in and outs, that's for pocket operators and things like that, old-fashioned drum machines. So you've got 300 to 319, that's all the different modes and scales. And then the keys, 320 all the way down to 331, and you've got 400, 401, and then 410, 411 for the metronome, changing scene, etc. So all those codes, all you got to do is hold Altero, Irado or Systema and then type in the code, press Intro, and that's it. One thing I didn't demonstrate was what the speaker sounds like. So if I just unplug the line out and we'll get something up and running here. Well, let's just use a demo, I suppose. So let's just play this. I've just got my Yeti Blue mic picking this up. Let's try a slightly noisier one. Bit of medieval techno there, I think. Obviously it's not going to be hi-fi quality. I'm guessing it's only one speaker, so it's only mono, but it's, you know, a decent reference if you're somewhere where you can't plug headphones in, or you just want to sit there and have a quick faff around with a track. It's perfectly adequate for that. That's the built-in speaker, and the microphone is in that area as well. Let's plug our line out in again. If I play this track, keep your eye on the display. Every time something from group A is played, that flashes, and you can see D flashing sporadically down there. A little bit of C there now. So it shows where the groups are producing sound. Gives you a good readout on that. And over here you've got the level. You've got like a shallow drum, a bit deeper, bit deeper, bit deeper. So obviously the higher it goes, the more volume you've got. Obviously that's the play button, the white play button there. That sign there, the cloud with the lightning, that is showing you that I've got the USB-C cable plugged in. The cloud is for the data and the lightning is for the power. Yeah, so a few bits and pieces there before we go on. Now at the end of the last video, which I kind of ended quite abruptly because I was running out of time, I was in the process of showing you how to do sampling, and I showed you how to use the built-in mic, but now I'm going to show you how to do sampling from the line in. Now I'm going to be using my Teenage Engineering OPXY. So I'm going to be playing this little beat. Like that. So to set this up, I'm going to hold Altero and Demus. Now it's saying LR, left and right inputs are being sampled. I could press the plus button and I'll be sampling just the left side of the stereo. Press it again and that's the left and right summed in the center, C, or just the right. But I'm going to sample the left and right inputs. All pads are flashing. If I run the track, obviously the pulses encoder shows us the level. The metronome is the threshold. We'll bring that down. So let's make a quick sample here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if I want to chop this sample up, I hold Altero and Demus twice. It's playing, which is a bit annoying. I wish it wouldn't do that. I think they fixed that on the KO2. So that's my sample that I've got in. CHO is short for chop. So there are two methods of chopping up. Automatic is where I press a group button and this will auto slice what I've done. So if I press the A group, I've now got all these slices. So that's been spread out. If I want less slices, I press the minus button. Each pad has got a longer chunk of audio on it. So and of course I could record those into a sequence. Press plus to come up to the 12 or less, whatever you want. So that's one way of chopping up your sample. The full sample that I've recorded is still going to be in the first available slot, but this chopped up sample can be used for recording. If you want to change the slices, so if I hold this pad, I can change the start and end points, and I can hold Altero to get finer adjustments, or bring it right the way back. Now of course I've got the entire sample on this pad now. Still got those little sections there. That's quite good, isn't it? So you could put the whole sample on one pad if you wanted to. So that's one way of chopping up your sample. New sample. So Altero, Demus twice. Right, so you notice I pressed those pads. That was that slice. That was that slice. That was quite a long one. Short one. And that was the end. So you can pick out the slices you want. I didn't do that particularly expertly, but you can see that's the second way of chopping. Lazy chop, a lot of people call that. You can reorder your sample in that way by chopping it up and pressing different pads. So that's how you record from the line in, and two ways of chopping that sample up. As you've just heard, you can play external instruments through the Medieval. So let's get this going. I can turn the volume up and down, and the amount of effects. Now it's set on echo at the moment. Change that to reverb. So you can plug things into the 1320 and you can turn them up and down and add the 1320's effects to them in that way. Right, so I've picked this sample because it's a nice melodic sample, and I'll press the claves key. So in here I've got a specific scale there. So let's change the scale and show you how to do that. So you hold Altero and Arado to go into Sistema, the system. Press plus 3 times for pad, I showed you that in the last lesson. Press intra, enter, okay, and then press the plus until you see SCA for scale. Okay, press intra, and you can see these various scales with the minus and plus buttons. That is chromatic 12 tone, major, minor, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Locrian, major pentatonic, minor pentatonic, and that's it. So supposing I want Dorian, which is a minor scale. It's flashing, I press intra to lock it in, and now that button won't work until I come out of this, because obviously that's used for locking in the scale. So if I press manus, come out, I've now got the Dorian scale, but what key am I in? Okay, so let's go Altero and Sistema, and we'll press the plus button, pad, key, right? Now press intra, and I'm in G, so this is G Dorian. So if I want to change this to, say, A Dorian, press intra, and here it's gone up, it's now in A Dorian. Remember I showed you those charts where you can just tap in the number. I happen to know that if I want the chromatic, the 12 tone scale, I hold Altero and Irado, and I tap in 310, watch the display, and now I've got chromatic scale. If I want the key of C, I know that's 320, so Altero, Irado, tap in 320, watch the display, C, and now I've now got a chromatic scale of C. So those access codes are really good, aren't they? That's how you change the scale and the key. Let's change the scale. I'll do this the long way around just so you see what it actually is. Just change it to major for the moment. Good, that's great. So come out of that. So now the root note is on pad 1. That's just coming down lower than the actual scale. There's your actual scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Right, so I've got my notes set out on my pads. Now if I want to change the tempo, I press the tempus button there and rotate the red pulses knob. Let's bring this down to 80, like that. I can also tap the tempus button 4 times, so if I do it quickly, it's gone up to 214. Let's do it slowly. And actually I've got 80, which is pretty good. It's pretty lucky, wasn't it? You can also use the plus and minus buttons to change the tempo. You can also hold tempus and type the number in. So if I wanted 120, hold tempus 120. See, I want 80 though, so hold tempus 80. The tempo only goes down to 60 normally, but if I wanted something lower than that, see, watch this, 60. But if I want 40, for instance, if I hold tempus and type in 40, I can get it, but I can't get it by scrolling, you see. And the other way, if I want a really high tempo, I think I can get up to 399. So tempus 399, if you'd ever want such a thing, and there it is. But normally it only goes up to 180. Anyway, we'll have it on 80, that's fine. If you want decimal points on your tempo, if you're really fussy like that, then if you hold tempus and then the decimal point pad down here bottom left, then you can type 0.44, 0.89. Now the tempo will be 80 plus that fraction. So lots of options with the tempo there. Now prior to recording, if the metronome doesn't work, if you don't hear the metronome, hold tempus and rotate the metronome knob. Now you see that's come on there, see? You can change the time signature by pressing manus and tempus. So manus and tempus. So it's 4/4 at the moment, which is what I want, 4 beats to the bar standard. If I rotate the pulses, I can change the first part of that, so that would be a waltz 3/4, 2/4, if I change the right hand knob, the metronome knob, that changes obviously the right hand number. So I've now got a 3/8 time signature. I could have 7/8, 6/8. Lots of options there. It's pretty good, isn't it? 5/8. I could have 5/4, I think, yes. But anyway, I'm going to stick to 4/4 for the moment. You can also change the first number in the time signature by pressing the plus and minus buttons. Quantizing, if you don't know what that means, is auto correction. If your timing is a bit sloppy when you play your pads, make sure this is on. If you press quantum and it's set to semiquavers. Now you know it's on because the Q is flashing. Okay, now if I hold the quantum button and press the plus button down, you see this unmanacled boot icon, and that means it's not going to be quantized. So your recording will be exactly as you play it. That may not be what you want, so we'll hold quantum and minus, and now we've got the Q flashing. It's going to be quantized. And obviously you can set the quantization to 30-second notes, okay, demi-semiquavers. You can have semiquaver triplets, semiquavers. You can have quaver triplets, quavers, and that's it. I tend to leave it on semiquavers, as most people do with these kind of machines. If you want to quantize after the fact, you hold Altero and Quantum like this, okay, and then while the sequencer is running, you hold down the pads that you played, and you'll see the display will show that you're correcting the timing, and it will show you how many notes have been corrected. Once you've made your recording and it sounds a bit weird, you may have inadvertently turned your swing on. Now the swing is controlled by this brown Y metronome knob. It's set at 50, which is no swing, but if you turn it up above that, you'll have swing, which you probably don't want at first, so leave that at 50. I did a recording the other day and it was sounding really awful until I realised I set the swing up to about 65. So make sure that's off. There's a couple of ways of recording into this. Let's go back to Manus. Recording in real time. Now, if I press codecs, it's showing length 1. So if I hold the codecs down and keep pressing the plus button till I get to length 4, that'll be a 4-bar pattern now. Okay? And I've got my keys showing up here, so I know that I've got my pads working as a kind of keyboard. Now if I want to record from the beginning of the pattern, I press codecs and then I hold Altero and Fabula, and then you can press codecs to stop recording. The device keeps going, and then you press Fabula to stop the playback. What I tend to do is press codecs and then Fabula, and then I'll get a 4-beat count in. A few things to notice in the display here. Manus is showing because I pressed Manus last. This shield icon shows that I could undo this, and I'll show you that at a later date. It's quantized, so let's just run the sequence. If I want to go from the beginning, I just press Altero and Fabula. Bars are ticking over there, bars and beats. There's the play button there. The B group sign is flashing there because it's all on group B. And of course I could change the tempo if I wanted to. And just press Fabula to stop. Now if I'm on, say, I don't know, the 3rd bar and I press play, it'll play from bar 3. If I'm anywhere in the 2nd bar and press Fabula, it'll play from bar 2. So it plays from the beginning of the previous bar. If you want it to go back to the beginning, you hold Altero and minus, and then, and of course if you hold Altero and Fabula, it automatically plays from the beginning. Now, so if I go back to the beginning, you can scroll through your recording with the plus and minus buttons. obviously there are gaps there because there are gaps in the recording. So it shows you the bar, the beat and the division of the beat, which in this case is set to 4s. And so I've shown you scrolling through the bars. So if I go to a chosen step, right, there's nothing on that step. So if I press codex and one of these pads, like that, now listen. Do you hear it? Just after the start of the bar, I entered that note in with step recording. Now obviously Quantum and Pulses sets the divisions. It's set at 16ths at the moment. So if I set this to 8, it has a bearing on how the bar scrolls through. Watch the display. Only 2 subdivisions. If I set this to 8T, now watch, there are 3 subdivisions. If I set this to 16, you've seen that already, that's the 4s and 4s, you see. If I set it to 16 triplets, sixes, you see. And if I set it to 32s, I've got 8s. So obviously that's the highest resolution I can have. So I'm just going to set this back to 16. Now let's go back to that note I added. That note there. Now if I want to erase this note, I hold Errado and that note, and now it's gone. You can change the velocity and duration of any note on a specific step by going to that step, pressing the appropriate pad, plus Altero, and then rotating Pulses for the velocity or Metronome for the duration. So let's find a note we want to change. Right, that's the very first note, so that's a good one to work on. It's that pad there. So hold Altero, that pad, and then change the velocity, bring that right down, and then make it as short as I can. Yeah, you can hear that first note is definitely quieter. And I think it is a bit shorter, I'm not sure about that. Now if you press the fader button here and one of the pads, and then change, say, the Eta, which is the low pass filter. So fader, that button there, and low pass filter. Right, and you can see what I've done there. I've brought the tone down on that, I've made it very dull. But all the other notes are nice and bright, aren't they? Let's just change that volume and duration. Hear how dull that note is. Let's use this undo function now, shall we? Now if I hold Altero and B, I know I can undo this because that shield is showing. Altero and group B, now that's undone. What I did last has been undone. No shield showing now, so I can't undo anything now. So remember, undo is Altero and hit group B, but it only works if there's a shield in the display. Now I've locked in a fader movement. I can erase this by holding Errado and the fader button, and it's going to delete. I've deleted that fader movement and everything's back to kind of normal. Remember, Altero, Shift and Fabula play takes you back to the beginning and plays automatically. And Altero and minus takes you back to the beginning of the pattern without it automatically playing. I can make notes repeat by holding Quantum and the actual pad. That's set to 16s. I can set that to 30 seconds. I could set that to something like 16 triplets. I could set it to something slow like 8s. And that's the note repeat function, and you can obviously record that. If I turn the swing up and I change the setting to 16, now do the note repeat. Here I've got that swing as well as the note repeat, and I can record all that into the sequence, of course. So let's see if we can record that. So that's recorded into the sequence. The swing turned up and I was using the note repeat there. Now I can nudge the timing as well. There's a nudge timing effect here that I can use. Right, let's record a normal 4-bar pattern. Right, so that's in. I'm going to turn the quantizing off, so I hold quantum and plus. The unmanacled boot is showing me that I've got that turned off now. I'm going to nudge one of the notes slightly out of time. So let's find out where I want to do this. That one there, okay. So this is on bar 1, beat 1, subdivision 4. Altero, that pad, and the plus button. You see I can take it up to how far? That's gone into the next beat now. Right, let's run this now from the beginning. See how out of time that is now? It's really late, isn't it? Now, the EP-1320 has an arpeggiator, so I'm going to again erase this pattern, and I've got these pads working on this sound. And how do I make the arpeggiator work? Well, the way it works is with the sound spread out over the 12 pads. If you hold the quantum button down and play multiple keys, you'll hear an arpeggio. If I change the swing like this, my arpeggio has now got a swing. Let's see if I can record this in. Yes, I can. So I've recorded the arpeggiator into the sequence there, which is pretty good. And you can do it with it running, you can do it with it stopped. I haven't got different sounds set up here, but if you've got the claves turned off and you've got different sounds set, so let's put another sound here. Okay, now if I do that and hold those 3 pads down, I've got sounds. It's doing the arpeggio with the 3 different sounds on the 3 different pads. Obviously that's with the claves off. Now the next item on my list here is loop. I've already covered this extensively in a special video that I recorded before I started this course. So if you want to find out about loop, how to record loops, how to make loops, check that video out, and I'll put a link to it in the description, because that is quite a thing all by itself. There's 3 different methods of doing it, and it is pretty amazing, but check that video out. I don't want to do it all over again. Just going to deal with the effects now. To apply effects, you press Focus. Okay, and you can see the one I've got up here is Echo. If I press the minus, the effects can be off. Echo, Reverb, I'm pressing plus obviously to advance through these. Distortion, Ensemble, which is a kind of chorus. Filter, Compression. This dim is, I think it makes mono sound stereo, and that's it. So I've got my effect off at the moment, so moving this fader won't make any difference at all. Let's press the plus button and turn the echo on. Now as I bring the fader up, you'll see more and more castles appear here on the left. See? As the level comes up. And if I go all the way up, it's completely wet, so I probably want it about halfway. Let's just run the sequence. All the way up there, it's completely wet, so it's weird. So just maybe under the line. The pulses control changes the time of the echo, and the metronome knob changes the amount of feedback, the amount of delays. You hear it's analog, so you get that kind of, that's the longest delay you can have. Shorter now, and more feedback. Lots and lots of delays. So that's echo. Let's go to reverb. Now with the reverb, the pulses changes the length of the reverb, and the metronome changes the colour, or the tone if you like. So turn it up a bit. Long reverb time. See, if I turn the metronome up, I've got a kind of tinny reverb. It makes it a bit duller if I bring it to the left. Bring the time down, make it wetter. That's reverb. Distortion. The pulses controls the drive, and again the metronome the colour. So there's distortion. Bring the drive down, and I can change the tone. Okay, so that's distortion. Ensemble is a kind of chorus. The pulses changes the modulation, and the metronome changes the speed. So the pulses is the depth. So really wobbly, back it off a bit better. And then the speed is controlled with the metronome. Again, less is more with this, I think. It's quite nice like that. Remember, you can only use one effect at a time. Let's go to filter. The pulses is the cutoff, and the resonance is on the metronome. In real time to get special effects. That's filter. Compression. The pulses controls the drive, and the metronome the speed of the compression. Turn it up too much, you'll get distortion, so more drive. So again, be subtle with this. The last one is the dimension expander. This makes mono sounds stereo. So the pulses controls the modulation, and the metronome the length. Not sure what this will do. Can't say I'm a massive fan of that, but it's there if you want it. So there we are, all those effects, and they can all be applied with the fader, but you can only have one effect at any given time. Obviously you have to pick your groups of sounds carefully, because if you want one set of sounds to be dry, put them all in one group. One set of sounds to be, have lots of reverb, put them in another group, that kind of thing. Fairly obvious, I think. Now, the master compressor, if I hold Altero and Pocus, you'll see this cannon has come up in the display, and here I can set the drive with the pulses and the speed with the metronome. Okay, so this is not on a fader. It's all done with the orange and brown controller. Yeah, and to get rid of that, I just press Pocus again. So Altero and Pocus initiates it, and just Pocus gets rid of it. So no master compressor. Now it's on. that will probably be more noticeable with drums running. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you got something from it, please give it a like and consider subscribing to my channel. If you want to give me a bit of a helping hand here, please make a donation either here on YouTube or on my website, which is preferable, and the address for that is www.daddylongles.com. Thank you very much for watching, and you'll see me in my next video.